So welcome back to the Better by Next Week podcast, where this week Ollie and I have a little bit of a different kind of episode where we're more talking about the ponderings that we think about, whether it be out on a run or just into day-to-day life. But they're things that may not necessarily be enough for a whole podcast, but we really wanted to talk about them and share it with the listeners.
So, yeah, we have a couple of small topics, a couple of big topics like Backyard Ultra. We have the World Champs going on right now. So we have a couple of predictions that we'd like to share. Do you want to get into that a little bit first?
Yeah. I reckon we'll talk about Backyard Ultra a little bit. I know we do cover it a lot.
Yeah.
And
it's a pretty big thing for us.
And our listeners aren't always Backyard Ultra
but this is a huge event going on. Like, This is World Champs. This is something serious.
Yeah, so tonight the World Champs start, and there's 5 or 6 Aussies going. I think we've got Dan Kamak, Jimmy B, the White Kenyan, Jashi, and our man Phil Gore. So we're hoping that they all do really, really well, but they are up against a lot of tough opponents. The Poles have got a lot of good runners. The Americans, Harvey Lewis, you can't ever, not think that
on
he's
his home ground, on home turf as well. It's difficult.
And even Meg Eckhart, I think that she did a massive effort at a 6-day race. I think she ran like over 900 Ks, 900 something Ks. So she's one, I reckon, to watch, to be the first female to possibly break 100 hours.
But yeah, definitely. That's a huge call. And even her result last year was incredible, coming second in the USA team. I think it was like 86 or 87. That's massive. And to only get 13 more for 100 hours, that's a really
and
huge.
that Bigs course is absolutely brutal.
It is grueling.
I've kind of looked at everyone that's going, and I often think, who's going to be the first to drop, and who's going to that course, that day course.
You don't want to be the first person.
You don't want to be the first person to drop. But there are a lot of smaller countries that don't have as big a PBs. So
what's interesting this year is that, because from Satellite Champs, the winner of each country got to go to Bigs, and a lot of these countries under 24, even some of them.
You had to qualify with 24
okay.
or more.
Yeah,
so there are a lot of countries there that don't have the big totals like Australia and Belgium and Poland, and even the French. I think that they're kind of a sleeping giant, because there's Nicolas Contepas. I've been following him a little bit, and he's an amazing runner. And I think he won the French national title, and so he could go further than the 86 that he's on. So.
Or even just anyone at the low totals. It's like who's going to be up?
Yeah,
and coming?
You had Ehor a few years ago. I think he was like
I'm so devastated
mid-50s.
Ehor isn't running.
Yeah, he was in the mid-50s. And he ended up coming second on 107. So
yeah, it's really unknown. But one thing that is known, I reckon Phil's going to win it.
Yeah. Well, what are your we now? No, I was going to say to you, what are your top 3? But you just I got excited, Phil. So who would your top 3 be?
Well, obviously Phil first. I think I have Lucas Roble second, because they're so similar, and even Phil was talking about how their times are very similar, and Phil's used to running by himself fast at nights, and I reckon he's going to have a little bit of company. Third, I'd like to see a female make top 3. I think Meg Eckhart will be really like up there for that.
Yeah, I think that she'll do really well. Well, my top 3, I kind of think that we're going to have a couple people that are down kind of in the 80s, kind of get up there, and a couple smokies, but obviously, I reckon Jimmy B's got a really, really good chance. I know for a fact that Jimmy B has been running on extremely sore feet for the last couple of years, and he's still been able to pump out massive totals. So I reckon third place, Jimmy B. I reckon it's going to be an Aussie treble. I reckon the White Kenyan.
Definitely not biased here.
No, but I reckon the White Kenyan, he's hungry. He's hungrier than ever. Again, another guy who's been struggling with some other issues that are kind of related to how it affects his running. And his performance as Sat Champs was just incredible. And he's been training the house down now. And I reckon he's now that he knows that he's ticked all the boxes on the other things that he had going on, I reckon he's ready to go well beyond 100. And our man, Phil Gore, is going to be the one that I reckon wins bigs. And I reckon he's going to add that world title to his trophy cabinet and essentially be the best backyard ultra runner that we've ever seen.
I was going to say that Phil's got so many of these titles, but one thing he doesn't is the world champion title at the actual bigs course.
Yeah.
And even Jimmy B as well, his training's been off the charts as well. It's really
I think
good
because he had like surgery on his neuroma in his foot. So that's
has he recovered well from that?
Yeah, I've been looking at his training, and his training is way better than what I've ever seen it. So, and I think they're both so focused mentally, those guys, and that's what it takes.
But even Ryan Crawford and how he had issues last year at bigs, and that's devastating to drop out at 30 because what was it like?
Oh, he had issues like I think he just had nutritional issues and things like that.
Even to drop out like that 30 hours to make the effort all the way over, it's a pretty costly expenditure to go over to the States.
And like I mean, no one. That's the most nerve-wracking thing about that. Like even when I went over, I was thinking we have spent so much money to get me over here. I really need to make sure that things go well.
How cool was the vibe over there as well with all the Halloween? I've been seeing everyone run around Halloween.
Yeah.
There's a funny photo of Ryan in this huge skeleton as he's all about being the White Kenyan skeleton.
Yeah, I love seeing all that. But actually, it's funny. We'll move into the next pondering that I kind of had, and it actually relates almost directly to what we're just kind of talking about, and that's FOMO. Like I had a really
this is interesting for you.
Yeah, I had a really interesting theory on FOMO because I think that obviously fear of missing out. So as someone that likes to compete a lot, and I often do get FOMO. I got FOMO when Dead Cow Gully was running. I'm getting a little bit of FOMO seeing all the photos come up on Instagram and everyone on their journeys at bigs and things like that. But I reckon that you only get, this is what my pondering is about it. I reckon you only get FOMO when you feel like you could have competed at that event at a level that was comparable to the people that are there. So for instance, if I'm looking at watching the Olympics marathon, I'm a full spectator. I'm a fan. I'm watching it because I know I've got no chance, and I know I'd never have a chance to compete against those guys. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. But when I watch something like Dead Cow Gully or anything like that, and that's not to say that I think that I can beat any of those guys, but I feel like I'd be competitive. So you almost imagine yourself being there and thinking, oh, I wish I was there. Like I could imagine myself being there, running with those guys, and because you associate yourself with that. What do you think?
Well, do you even think now, because you're so well primed for King of the Hill, do you think that your FOMO for bigs is not as much, like you don't have as much FOMO because you have another event going on?
No, I almost feel like it's more.
Because you're a lot fitter than what you were 2 years ago at bigs, and I feel like you have a lot more to prove at bigs because physically you were completely fine, but how much more mentally have you grown? I remember at Sat Champs for 23 hours straight, you were all mental, like coming in 55, 50s, no sleep, coming hitting the pillow, bang, out. Had you known that, have you had that experience before bigs 2 years ago, maybe it would have been a different story.
Well, maybe that's what's driving my FOMO even more.
Definitely.
But I think that, I just think that it's sometimes tough because I think that if you think that you're competitive, you kind of, that fear of missing out is even greater. But I also, that's not to say that, people that might not feel like they're as competitive don't get FOMO either, because I think you get FOMO sometimes in events where you feel like, oh, I did this event previously, and now I remember that experience, and I want that experience again. And then you see everyone else having that experience, like, oh, I wish I was having that.
Well, yeah, it's funny because obviously you're going over with Joel and having that experience of all the fun, and now you're not there, and you feel like you're really
I've seen Jashi and those guys at the gate for Barclays.
Oh, that would have been awful.
And Timmy Moffat, they were there at the gate running where Barclays is held. And I remember Joel and I went over there, and it was it was such an awesome experience.
Wow.
But yeah, so full on FOMO.
Coming back over to King of the Hill with the money, what are you thinking of doing there with it? Like, because it's $25,000, and talking about the Barclay Gate, what are your hopes and dreams?
Well, I guess I haven't kept this a secret or anything like that.
It's not set in stone.
But I would really like to get over to Barclay Marathons and have a crack and be like, the first Aussie to, do a few loops. So, but I wouldn't be going over to do just a few loops. I'd be going over to try and give it a red hot crack.
Well, you'd be going over weeks before as well.
Yeah, hopefully I'd be going over a little bit before and, training on the course and all those things. My theory behind something like the Barclay Marathons is that a first timer is always going to find it really hard to finish that event. And for anyone that doesn't know what the Barclay Marathons is it's probably one of the most brutal events on the planet.
You say that, but you're just looking for books in the forest.
Yes, yeah, that's it. And you're going up and down Mount Everest a couple times, the equivalent in elevation.
No
but yeah, so that's the kind of event that it is. It's absolutely brutal. Hardly any people have finished it over the 20 or 30 years that it's been running. But essentially, my theory on that, my pondering, I suppose, on that would be that you would have to almost team up with an experienced runner, someone that's done the course before, someone that's either finished it or done a few loops before.
I feel like they have like an aura around them.
Yeah, well, you've got guys like John Kelly that tends to do it every single year, and running a couple loops with him would be just awesome, I reckon. And you would get an understanding of what the course looks like in both directions and where the books are hidden and how Laz actually hides the books. Because although we've done the event here with Unbreakable, different people hide things differently. Like Laz might hide a lot harder with the sketchier descriptions. So
we know what his sketchy descriptions like. But also, how cool is it? You're going to be able to bring a number plate from Australia all the way over to the USA.
Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. King of the Hill is it's a big event.
We'll talk about King of the Hill. You're definitely on your peak weeks. How are you taking that? Especially coming down to taper. That's all past. How have you felt this whole training block's been?
Yeah, so my training has been really, really good. I've really enjoyed it. It's probably the most training that feel like I've done for an event in a very long time. I tend to like to build my training weeks where I kind of increase by about 10 or 15%, depending on obviously how I'm feeling every single week, and then get to a really good peak week. My peak week last week was around 200 Ks. So with a lot more vert than what I would normally do. And obviously King of the Hill, it's in the title, it's a hill. So you're up and down a hill a lot. So it was a little bit slower in terms of paces and things like that. But I think that the endurance that I have in the legs anyway would have been enough just to do the event like I normally train. But I thought, I'll kick it into gear a little bit more. I'll do a little bit more hill stuff just to see where I'm at. And I actually felt really, really good. So this is probably the first event that I'm going to in probably 3 years where I don't have a niggle. And I don't have any injuries.
Well, because
last couple of years I've battled plantar stuff, so I end up tearing the plantar in the end, and now that pain's gone, and I've got no pain in the foot, so which is great.
All you had to do was jump on it and break it.
Yeah, just had to complete the tear that I initially got in there. So yeah, it's been good. Like I really enjoy that kind of training, and I suppose we kind of had a pondering as well, didn't we, about being mentally prepared versus physically prepared. Yep. And what are your thoughts?
I think you need to balance both of them, like the trade-off of both of them. I feel like for this event, there's specific areas where you have to be physically strong. Like it's very demanding on the downhill. And I feel like your training has been perfect for that. Like you've been going up and downhill, you've been running downhill, really training those quads. A lot of people think the uphill is going to be so hard, and it is at times. It'll be like, this is taking forever. But it'll be the downhill that causes a lot of the fatigue. So I feel like maybe physically that's where it's at in terms of quads and preparing for that. That's super important, obviously. But mentally, knowing your competitors around you, and especially with the saga of all the King of the Hill, if people haven't been up to that, we'll get into that a little bit later on. But it's been really funny. But knowing that you've done the work, you've done the reps in training, I feel like that'd be super important for you. And I know I'm talking about you. You probably should be talking about you. But for me, I feel like I think for me it's more mental. I need the validation in myself or the feedback in myself to be able to cross that line and go, start the race and be like, I got this, you know.
Yeah, I often find like with you, physically from an outsider, I watch your training and you nail it.
Well, I'm excited. Like, every morning I go, maybe not. I hear the alarm. I'm like, oh no, gosh, I wish I could go back to it. There was actually a thing. Sorry, I didn't cut you off. There was a thing the other morning where, so the dogs howl when Mum leaves the house, and then I go out there, I tell them off, they be quiet, and then I come back in and I think about, Mum left, but you know how you think some weird thoughts when you're half asleep and half awake. I'm like, Mum left, so that means she left at like 4:30. And my alarm is at 6:30. I have 2 hours of sleep. I go back to sleep. 5 minutes later, my alarm is. I'm like, God damn it! Now I got to get up and do a session, and yeah, it always sucks. But once you're at the door, it's completely fine.
So I guess it's funny that you kind of mention the waking up in the morning before you get out for your run and stuff like that, because it's almost as if you have to train the mental before you train the physical. So, what is it that you do aside from trying to get up in the morning and not wanting to get up to kind of train the mental side of it?
Well, our man Phil Gore says the cold showers, that was really tough for the week. I don't know how you found it, but
I haven't been doing it so much.
Well, I haven't been doing it as much either. I'm sorry, Phil. We
I can only fit one challenge in a week.
I know. But I even it's always in the back of my mind. I'm like, and especially with cold showers, it's like I might be taking a warm shower just to be able to clean myself calmly and not going none of that. But it's always in the back of my mind. Even the shower I had before GV, I'm like, nah, I'm not having a cold shower. Like I'll enjoy it right before my race, but it's always in the back of my mind. I'm like, no, there's something I can improve here. So I guess that's that my mental self is very strong, and I'll always, even for 15 seconds at the end, I'll turn it on, because it's even that it's always that first snap, first little wince of little cold shower, cold feeling. That's that mental grind.
So I guess when you're looking at both the physical preparedness and the mental preparedness, you've got to look at your training block and see where they slot in terms of the timeline of when you kind of prepare. You're always obviously preparing both, but I find with the physical, you tend to do that earlier on in the training block, because there's not really too much mental preparedness that you can really do, because the event's that far away. So you'll build and build and build this strong body. And then there comes a point where you can kind of reflect back and say to yourself, I'm super strong. I've got all that covered. And then you start preparing mentally. So for me, what that kind of looked like in the last couple of weeks, especially when it was peak weeks, was pushing to a limit where I'm either in the pain cave or, getting to a point where I want to quit. And there was a fair few moments, especially my peak week, where I got to, and it was kind of halfway through the run, where you start to question, why am I doing this? Because you are so physically prepared and so physically strong that if the event was in a week's time, you'd be ready to go. But often what happens is you don't explore that quitter side of yourself. So I found a few times that I got to a point where I would start running, I'd warm up, I'd feel great. And then in the middle section, maybe 2 hours into my run, I'd meet that quitter in me. And then I almost have a conversation with him and say, hey, when it gets hard, remember, when you're doing that event, you're not quitting. So it was almost preparing that quitter in me for when that moment arrives. And that's how I kind of prepared mentally this time around. I'd never really done it or looked at it like that before. So I found that was, a good way to prepare mentally, because everything else, like if I reflect back on all my running, it's there. Like I've done all those things. I know how to reflect. I know how to be grateful. I know how to do all those things. But it's always trying to scratch the surface of something else that you can add to your kind of artillery to have a go, not to have a go, but to kind of unravel when it gets hard during an event.
That's something I find that you have an advantage of over a lot of competitors, because what people don't do is they don't get to a point where they're in that vulnerable position in training. And then when it comes to rest day and they're in that vulnerable position, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Whereas you've now experienced that and you've experienced from past events. But we often talk about how you forget those moments.
Yeah.
But you being able to train, like physically train, I find it so hard to get to that point in training.
Yeah, I think that because people are always focusing on the physical side of it,
Yes.
and they think, oh, I'm physically ready, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. But it's just like when you get into an event and there comes a point where something starts to hurt and you've never experienced that before. So what do? You often, depends on how strong you are, you'll often either move past it or you'll say to yourself, this was me for today, and
Well, you start to get emotional.
Yeah, and it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. It can be a 5K run. It could be a 100K run. You might get to the 3K mark of your park run and say to yourself, oh, this is really hard. I've never felt this before. This must be my limit. So you're always trying to find that limit, and that's from a physical standpoint. But from a mental standpoint, you often don't find that mental limit. And it's very hard to replicate, obviously, in training and things like that. But just like the physical, you find your limit and you've got to try and move past it. Well, the mental side of it's the same. And I think that people underestimate how important it is to do that mental side of it. And that's where experience comes in. So everyone brings different things to events. When you really think about it, and everyone tends to train the things that they feel are the most important for that event. And it's very easy. Like, Strava's great. I can have a look at my competitors and what everyone else is doing, and you can see where people's weaknesses are. Because if they're training the house down, well, that's where they feel that their weakness is. Like in those like physical weaknesses, so then they'll train their ass off, and that's what they're supposed to do. Like, someone might have a look at me and say he's not training as hard in that, but then he's talking about all this mental stuff. So then maybe he's trying to harness that a little bit more and push towards that, because I might feel like they're the things that stopped me from my previous event. So then you go and work on them.
You mentioned Strava, and this led me into a perfect transition over. I was thinking about this thought of those, like, ghosting yourself on Strava. I know a lot of elite athletes do. I know Tom Evans, Ruth Croft, both male and female, who won UTMB this year. I know Jim Walmsley does it. They all ghost themselves on Strava, where none of their...
What's ghosting?
Well, ghosting is basically you don't post any of your runs, don't log anything on Strava. No one sees your training. I wonder if that works for them, because they're some of the greatest athletes that the sport has ever seen.
Well, you just answered your own question.
I know, but
it does obviously work for them.
But to what point? Why do you think that they would do something like that instead of being like a Kilian Jornet, who is also the greatest in the sport, but shares his journey?
I think everyone's different. Like, I think everyone's different. Some people open books and are happy to share their thing. And I don't think it's necessarily that they don't want to share or they don't want to show anyone. But sometimes if you're super laser focused on something, you don't need outside distractions. You don't need someone saying to you, oh, why do you train like this? Or why did you do this run? I do, because people have access to you on things like social platforms like Strava. So it makes it very hard to sometimes focus on what you need to focus on. So it's easy just to do it. And it works for them too.
For me, I actually found there was a moment for me, and I remember you really emphasizing for me to stop doing so many descriptions on Strava. I almost got too much in my head where I'd be running and I wouldn't be thinking about the run. I'd be thinking about what I'm going to name the run.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not actually trying to crush it. I'm just thinking about the name of the run, and that's something I don't need to focus on.
No, that's
and
right,
I got to a point and I was really low about it. I'm like, do I just completely stop Strava and I'm just going to train?
Yeah, but it's a balance, and that's the thing. Some of those athletes may find that it might be bad, but you know what? It might also be that their coaches who coach them and give them specific sessions say to them, I'll coach you, but you can't post it on
Yeah, it's a
Strava.
little bit maybe confidential.
So
a little bit.
yeah. So there's a reason. There could be many reasons, and it may be that they don't want people knowing where they run because Strava's obviously an open book. You can look it up people and see where they run.
Yeah, well, there was one thing that you said to me, and that changed my mind about Strava, and it's to lay low a little bit, like obviously upload because people want to follow your journey. Like I'm younger, people want to see. And I'm like, yeah, maybe because you like some people do it. I inspire some people just by looking at my training, and I'm not trying to pump up my own tires or anything, but people do. I look at Killian Jornet's training, I look at Hans Troy's training, I'm like, far out. I want to be like them.
Yeah.
And it just motivates me.
Yeah, people often look at each other's Strava just to, like you said, motivate each other. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're following some elite athlete. You might be just following some guy that you just met at parkrun, and you think, oh, how do I get, that 10 seconds faster? How do I get that? And then you'll look at what they're doing and say to yourself, you know what, I might try that training session there and then that's how you grow and evolve into a better runner and in some cases a better athlete.
Well, you might follow some random guy you're having a little race up saddle with on some random day.
Oh, that's
each other.
right. Well, and then it's funny because that guy we've spoken about on the podcast, that story about me going up the hill and that guy being behind me. We met him at Lerderderg. He was out there running when we were out there, and I was chatting to him. And it's like, it's funny, small world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super small world. And sorry, I don't want to get off this topic of Strava, but we've had a little friendly battle with you and Gaddy, who's another competitor at King of the Hill, and even Peru's involved with it as well, with all this Strava and
Liam as well.
And Liam, yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
He's had a really good week this week. What's your take on all that situation?
I like that the King of the Hill guys are having a lot of fun with this. So I think often in sports, everyone's super humble and no one really says anything, and they don't want to kind of step outside the box or put their head on a chopping block and say, oh, I'm going to win. You do occasionally have it, but I think that there's a new generation of runners kind of coming through.
The younger.
They're younger. Sam Harvey's a bit like that. He'll just say, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to run 150 hours or whatever it may be. And so there's a little bit of banter going on with this King of the Hill race, and I'm quite enjoying it.
I could tell by your comments.
Sitting back, and I love it. I absolutely love it because, having a bit of fun with it, having a bit of laughter with it is really good because it actually gives you a really good insight. For me personally, it gives me a really good insight into the mental space of everyone else who I'm competing against. Yeah. And obviously, a last man standing being a real mental game, understanding your opponents is super important. So seeing what people say and what they think is actually going on, it's an advantage for me. I actually quite enjoy it. I look at racing. I don't look at racing like everyone else. I'm not racing to win because I often look at what I've done and like I'm getting a little bit older now and
hey, well, hold on. He said he's getting older. I didn't say it.
No, you did.
He's getting older.
Yeah. But I said that I'm getting older. You normally say that I'm on the decline.
All right.
So there's a big difference there.
Right.
But so I think I've achieved a heap of cool stuff, and I've had a lot of fun running, and I've gone to some awesome places. I've met some amazing people. I've already won at this running thing. So every event that I go to, I don't actually feel any pressure to do anything because I just turn up and I just do what I got to do. Whether other people feel pressure or not, I don't know. I think if everyone just took the philosophy into running that you're there to give it your best, and having the opportunity to compete against the best is what I thrive on. Like when I see people crushing training, guys like Gaddy, Peru, Ross McPhee, there's guys that I looked up a couple of people on Strava that popped up on the King of the Hill page, and I looked at some of their training. They haven't even been mentioned, these people, and they're crushing 160K weeks, 5,000 meters of vert every week. Their training is 10 times better than mine, and they haven't been mentioned. They're the people that I'm excited to run against because they're the they're the ones that are going to push us as far as we can go. And in terms of the banter, like, I reckon it's going to be awesome. And, that at that event, it's going to be so much fun because you're just going to be looking at people, and it'll be really interesting to see how far the banter can go when people start to get emotional and push really, really hard, because that's when the true self
raw,
kind of, you get the raw side of people. And at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want to beat anyone. I want everyone just to beat themselves. So, yeah.
Well, we got to be careful with what we say because we don't give King of the Hill little Easter eggs on our mind games and everything.
Your mind games?
Yeah, I got some mind games.
Are there crew mind games, are there?
Mind games, yeah.
Oh.
There's always the battle between the crews.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's like all the crews are all happy, hunky-dory, right? Until it gets really serious and it's down to
mysterious. He's having a sleep.
Yeah, but no, it's cool. Oh, are you looking forward to crewing at King of the Hill?
I'm so excited because I prefer the crew more than anything in these types of events. I hate running them. I prefer. I don't hate running them, but they're a lot harder running them.
Do you notice though, if you prepare yourself mentally for an event and that you're going to run it, you would do everything in your power to be actually running it, as opposed to when you're crewing, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to go there. It's going to be chill. I'm going to enjoy the vibes.
You need to take that approach into it.
Because you want both though, don't you? Like often when you're racing, you don't get to soak in all that atmosphere as much as, a crew person that, behind the scenes, you're chatting to people, you're doing all those things. And we're with King of the Hill, that those guys are going to be putting on a massive event. So,
well, I'm pumped for it.
Yeah. I guess me and Ollie wanted to quickly just shift for 20 seconds and thank the community for all their support. But if you guys are listening on Spotify or YouTube or anything like that, follow, like, and subscribe. Even give us a star rating on Spotify because it really helps us, reach a wider audience.
Yeah, spread out across the community. We want to reach more people, and more people want to get better. By next
that's
week,
right.
So.
And we've got a heap of cool promo stuff in the works with sponsors and things like that. And the bigger reach we have, the more kind of prizes that we can get for the podcast and more giveaways. So I guess my next pondering was all about going all in at events or not. So what is your theory? What do you think's actually going on when someone's going all in or kind of not going in? So there's obviously a couple factors there, but the main underlying factor.
I love that you've asked this because I'm all into training right now. I'm completely all into this 5K, trying to get the time down, and I'm doing everything in my power because I have such a really hard training block coming up, and I'm trying to do everything to recover faster and be able to hit my training session the next day. And because I have so many back-to-back days that are hard, I need to really refine a lot of my things. So that maybe like nutrition, stretching. I even have bars now. I know it's probably not good for the water bill, but I have bars now. Trust me, it's not too much, but I have bars. I'm strength training. I'm doing the proper running training in general. I'm properly warming up, and it's all these little things that combine together and that make me a better athlete. And I just feel better in general. Like I cut back on a lot of bad habits and then replace them with good habits. And obviously it's hard. Like for me, I find going to bed later is a bad habit for me and something I need to improve. But because I'm so excited about training harder at night, but then I also have to train harder early in the morning. So I'm not getting that sleep. And sleep is something really huge for recovery. And that's an episode that we're going to get into.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll have an upcoming episode on recovery, which I'm looking forward to.
But that's all a part of going all in.
Yeah.
And I find that if one of those lacks, I'm going to go to race day. And if I don't get what I want, I'm going to look back. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, do you think, I guess why I ask that is that if you go all in on something and it doesn't work out, do you reckon that hurts more mentally? Or do you think, this is what I was kind of alluding to a little bit, or do you think that by not going all in, we protect ourselves a little bit? So for instance, if we have a few little excuses to why we didn't get the performance that we wanted to get, do you think that that's kind of because we're protecting ourselves? So if you think about it, you say to yourself, oh, I didn't strength train. oh, that's why it didn't work out for me, or I didn't do this, and that's why it didn't work out for me. But if you go all in, there's no excuses, and then you need to say to yourself, well, I'm not good enough, or I just haven't, I wasn't able to crush it and then there's no becauses. So
Well, I'm a firm believer in that if someone really tries at something, they will get it. And by going all in and not getting something, I genuinely believe you haven't gone all in because there's seriously something that's lacking there.
Or
there has to be something that's lacking there, I think.
Yeah, but could that one thing that's lacking, right, is your inability to have realistic expectations. Do you get what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Because that's a big one too.
Well,
because you, although at your most recent backyard ultra, you may not have gone all in, because
training wise,
because you were focusing on other things and stuff like that. Yeah. But you had these expectations, they weren't met, and then you were kind of a bit flat after the race.
Yeah,
but
race blues.
Yeah. But everyone has post-race blues as well. There's another podcast that we could talk about there. But yeah, you get what I'm saying though. So I think, whether it be subconsciously or not, because I know people that, often look at me and say to me, you put all your eggs in one basket. And I'm like, yeah, because I want to get the best out of myself that I can. But I think that when it doesn't work out, it actually hurts more. So it's a fine balance. I actually don't know what the right answer is in terms of whether you go all in or you leave a little bit out so that you kind of insulate yourself from, maybe the post-race blues or whatever it be.
I find with me, just my traits and just me as a person, if I'm doing something, and I find that with you too, we're both very similar in that. If we're doing something, we have to be good at it. Even when I was in my gaming stage, I was super good at gaming. I was top level gaming. I would ask all my friends.
And then I'll say, no, he wasn't top level.
No, they will. Don't say that. No, seriously, I was really good at gaming. We were both good at really good at Call of Duty. It's almost FIFA. We were good at almost.
We were pretty good.
That was a little bit frustrating, FIFA.
Yeah,
it's a bit rigged, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I broke the disc one time. It's all right. But that was when I was really young. But now with running, we're striving to be really good, the best that we possibly can in whatever we're doing. And I think that our personalities really suit that going all in.
Yeah, that balance that's a dangerous balance though as well, because I often find if I'm like you said, if I'm doing something, I'm either doing it or I'm not. Yeah. So I won't almost half-ass anything. So if you see me doing something, it means that I'm super passionate about it and I'm actually dialed in, I'm all in. Like I won't half do something because I just feel that it's a waste of time. But
well, that's something that I sometimes do. I sometimes half-ass things that I don't want to do. Like chores around the house, I'll half-ass it sometimes. But you're always reinforcing. It's like, why half-ass it? Yeah. You're already doing the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess that's something you can take into running.
Yeah. So what else did you have a pondering about?
We often talk about my anchoring song and being Skyfall by Adele. I'm fanboying over it.
I've already done a reel with you with Skyfall in the background. I'm not creating another reel for you, all right?
That. But I want to know what your anchoring song is and how, because what I do in training is when I'm running, and then a song comes on and my cadence is to the beat, and I'm like, and it pumps me the hell up. And
you know what? You know what I'll do? I'll share my my vibes playlist on the episode notes, so our listeners can listen to.
It's basically techno kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's all like it's almost the music that I listen to. It's very like journey songs, so they might start and it's like it kind of gets me a bit pumped up, and then I'll remember. Oh, geez, this is good, and then it gets better and harder, and then next minute I'm sprinting.
Can you relate to that cadence matching the beat of the song? I always do it, and it gives me that really big build up and a pump.
Yeah, I think music's a big one for running, and it's something that some events don't allow. I remember at Coast to Cozzy a few years ago, I thought you could wear headphones, and so did everyone else. And we're sitting there at the race briefing the night before, and the race directors get up and they go, Yeah, so part of the permit thing and the policing thing, because we're running on roads, there's no headphones. And you should have heard, it was like the soul was taken out of the whole, all the participants, because they're like, what do you mean we can't have
You're
music?
telling me I have to run 240
we can't-
kilometers along a road without music?
Yeah, that's right. It was so funny. And then everyone's like, so the race directors finished the race briefing and go, oh, are there any questions? And it was like, the next 5 questions were all about, so can you have one earpod in? No, you can't. Can you play the music on your phone, but it's not in your ears? And can you do this? It was all about the music. No one cared about what the weather conditions were going to be, the routing, the fact that they're about to run for, 30, 40, 50 hours or anything like that. It was all about the music. So it goes to show how important music is to some runners. But I have been practicing not running with anything.
Oh, that was what I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
I have been practicing, and a lot of it's, for me, it's a lot about
Memorizing the song, yeah.
yeah, I don't need to memorize the songs. I definitely don't memorize the songs because there's nothing worse than that. I do have mantras, but yeah, that's another topic. But so running without music or listening to a podcast or anything like that.
And why is that?
Well, because King of the Hill, they've said that there's no music on the hill. So
How
and
are
they
you
want us to.
do you think you take that well?
Yeah, well, I did Coast to Cozzy. I did fine. Down Under is another event that I've done. When I'm running with people, I quite enjoy having a chat. I ran with Ryan Crawford for 24 hours at Down Under. We didn't have any music. We just had our own, each other to keep each other company. So I don't have any issues. Once I get started, I'm just
You'll
like,
probably
this is
hear
fine.
the DJ from up the hill that they have down there.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're gonna have DJs and hopefully,
And that's what your cadence will match to.
yeah. Well, I'll accidentally flick them my new vibes playlist that I listen to, so they
you'll
can.
connect to Bluetooth.
So yeah, but no. Well, did you have any other ponderings, Alt, that we can finish off with the podcast?
Yes, I did have one. So a couple of weeks back, I tried this strength training thing because I saw something. It's either you do or you don't do strength training if you want to avoid DOMS. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to completely avoid DOMS the first week coming back because obviously my body's not used to the stimulus of strength training and I'm going to get DOMS no matter what. But what I tried doing was a couple of weeks before I got back into proper training. This week was my first week back to proper training. I did lower volume and lower weights and the same exercises. And I wanted to see whether or not I would get DOMS this week. And of course, I got DOMS the 2 weeks before trialing this thing because obviously my body's not used to it. But this week, what I found is I still got DOMS, even though the weight was significantly heavier, but I recovered so much faster. Like it was a morning. It was one training run where I felt really sore with DOMS. I still got through it. I still crushed it. But then in the afternoon, I was fine. And then the day after, I was fine. And that's something that I found with strength training. My little trial and error thing. And something I'll probably take into it because I feel like a lot of athletes neglect strength training coming back into it. But it's a good way of cross-training. Coming back from and recovering and pairing that with running a little bit. And that's almost like going all in, like preparing your body. Because I don't want anything to jeopardize my training sessions that I'm going to have in my training block. And by doing those sessions 2 weeks earlier, it helps me be ready and go all in.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I reckon that our listeners can take a lot away from that as well because no one likes DOMS.
No, everyone hates DOMS. One other thing about strength training I've found is I've had a couple of lower back issues recently, and core. I found that my core was completely so weak, and now I've integrated one core session a week, and my back's completely fine.
Yeah,
but I have something else to say that, but I should say it later on because it's part of the Better By Next Week challenge.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Well, we've got one last pondering that we'll do, and I've actually got a little video prepared. So this is a really cool way to think about your fitness and training. I sent you this video during the week, which was a reel from Dr. Jack Daniels, and we'll play it for everyone as well. I'll play it on the screen and then play it for us.
Your fitness level goes like this. And when you stop, lots of things, when you stop working your heart, for instance, it goes up like this, and when you stop, it goes back down like that. But not fitness. Fitness goes up like this, and when it comes down, it goes down like that. In other words, when you first stop training, you hardly lose any. I'd be willing to say you could go 5 days of absolutely nothing without losing one bit of fitness. And you go 10 or 12 days and you're only going to lose a little bit of it. It doesn't go away fast. We've done studies where we did muscle biopsies to look at what changes down in the muscles over time. And they took a group of marathoners who ran 100 miles a week for 1 year and muscle biopsy and looked at all the changes that took place. And then they made them not run at all for 87 days, and they biopsied them, and they'd only lost between 5 and 10% of everything they'd gained in a year.
Yeah, so Dr. Jack Daniels pretty much explains that you don't lose any fitness. You could do nothing for 5 days and you don't lose any fitness. So anyone that's tapering for events or
Feeling anxious.
or anything like that, he even went on to mention 10 to 12 days, he reckons that you wouldn't lose anything. You might start to lose a little bit of chest fitness, but he speaks about how you quickly get that back. Like you think about your chest fitness, within a week or two, it's back. That's it.
Well, there was one hard run that I had where, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, but now I'm completely back.
So you get that back really quickly. So I think it's important to understand that at a higher level, these guys know what they're talking about. So you don't need to, don't overtrain when you're,
recovering.
One, when you're recovering, and two, when you're leading into a race, because it's at both ends. Because people think, oh, I need to quickly get back into training because my recovery has been too long. I'm going to lose all my fitness. No, you're not. And same at the other end with tapering. Don't think that you're going to lose all your fitness because you're tapering for 2 weeks and you're running less, because you're not. It's good just to keep moving and things like that. But
then again, there's other methods that you can use to even help that mental and sharpen the mental game in terms of when you're feeling anxious and, oh, am I doing enough? It's,
yeah.
Get on the bike.
Yeah, focus on different things, because, again, what you're essentially trying to do is to flush out any fatigue that's left in the muscles. And if you jump on the bike, which I might actually do for the next couple of weeks, but yeah, so I think that's a really cool one to finish on, just to give people a little bit of less anxiety about how their fitness is going. If they get sick and you're sick, you're not going to lose all your fitness. Just have the confidence that yes, you might lose a little bit of chest fitness, but you get that back so quickly. So
what do you think we bring this one across the finish line and get into our Better by Next Week challenges?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll start.
Yep.
All right, cool. So I've got a little bit easier one for you this week, and I know how much you love your stats, and I know how much you love looking at your watch and everything like that. So my Better by Next Week challenge this week is for you to have one run where you go completely to feel it. And what that means is no watch at all. So you
not
just
even
go,
on my wrist.
Not on your wrist, nothing. No watch, nothing. You don't need to know how fast you're running or what the paces may be or how long the run was or anything like that. I want you to go completely to feel so that you can completely relax. And I want to know next week, after that one run, how it made you feel to actually run naked like that. Because often I think that you get so much in your head with stats and what the watch is doing and all that, and the fact that it's on Strava, it won't be on Strava, it won't be anywhere. It'll have happened, but it won't be anywhere but in your head.
That's a great challenge. That was very well thought. So my Better by Next Week challenge for you this week is to start dialing your nutrition. I know that when you were in peak weeks, you probably wanted to go in and grab a little bit of a sugary meal or something to eat. But I want you now to start, instead of grabbing those processed foods, I want you to now go, I'm going to start focusing on more substantial meals to help you fuel your day. And then you're not as likely to go in for a little snack. And it just helps you a lot. But especially for you when you're coming into tapering and you want to be able to prep for your race.
So I actually really like that challenge because, yeah, I have kind of slipped a little bit, especially during my peak training weeks where I was kind of grabbing sugary snacks for quick energy and things like that. So I reckon our listeners, they'll always enjoy a nutritional challenge. or they can just do my challenge and not wear a watch for a run, which is also a cool one as well. So thank you for everyone for listening. It was a bit of a different podcast with a lot of different ponderings, but I guess we'd like to, finish off with, wishing all the Australian team all the best at the Backyard Ultra World Champs, which starts tonight. We can't wait to see our man Phil Gore crush it and everyone else. So, good luck on all your runs this week. Go out there and crush it. And yeah, thanks heaps for listening.
Catch you later.